Hello everyone. I hope you are all enjoying the sessions. I'm totally enjoying all the sessions, being two sessions. And I have picked up a very boring topic. And you may be wondering why talking about processes when everyone else is talking about AI and all the cool stuff, right? Well, there is a reason why I chose this particular topic. Because I feel that while we talk about, all groundbreaking technologies, we talk about AI, we talk about building great teams, right? Very few of us talk about processes. And if you look at it, if you don't have a well-written, a well-followed, a well-executed process, the entire ballgame changes. You can have the best tools, you can have the best folks in the team, but you will not get the desired results. Now you may be wondering, of course she has to say all of this, of course, it's her topic. Let me give you an incident, talk about an incident, and perhaps after that you can start appreciating process a little bit more and be more convinced about what I'm saying. Now before I narrate the story, a small disclaimer. The objective of sharing this story is not to defame any city or any government organization. It is only for learning purposes. My disclosure is closed. Okay, now let's go ahead with my story. So it goes like this. I'm a Bengali. I come from Calcutta. Settled in Bangalore for almost 15-20 years. My parents have grown old. They are 75 plus, and of course they need regular care, medical checkups, treatments, medicines, and all of that. And my elder sister, she does all the running around. She makes sure that everything's taken care of. So one of the days I was visiting Calcutta. So my sister said, okay, you are here, go taste how it feels. Go and visit one of these hospitals. Take mama, she is due for an eye checkup. Go and take her there. Now my dad was a government employee, a central government employee, and they are covered under something called as CGHS. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of it. So if you are covered under CGHS, you get free treatment on the government hospitals, plus there are a couple of other hospitals which are empaneled, right? So my sister warned me that, okay, this is a public hospital and you have to take an appointment. I said, okay. I called up the hospital and I get an appointment for 12:20. Super. So me and my mom all ready. We arrive at the destination, our hospital. Go there exactly at 20 minutes before time. We go there. My mom was guiding me through, go get my name registered. I'm sure if you have visited any of the times these hospitals, you have to get your name registered. They have the register book. So I got my mom's name registered, name, age, and whatever the required details. I shared all of that. And then we are waiting. We are back to the reception, back to the waiting area. 12, 12:05, 12:10, 12:15, 12:20. Nobody's calling my mom's name. And my mom is already becoming impatient, right? Go check. Okay, fine. I went to the reception. 12:25, I went to the reception. And by the time I reached the reception, I could hear like an Akashvani. Token number 36. So my antennas went up. I realized that I had to generate a token, which I didn't do. And by the time I realized that there were other people obviously in the hospital, you can imagine public hospital overly crowded. There were other people who were also behind me, and I was talking to the receptionist that, okay, do I need to generate a token? She gave me a look, yes. I was like, okay, then when are you going to tell me? She didn't bother. Okay, I knew I have to go and get the token generated anyways. I rushed to the token machine, and by the time I rushed there were already some 7-8 people struggling to go to the token machine, get a token out of it. And by the time I could get hold of the machine, my token number was 43. 36, 43. I had to wait for another 7 patients. And we were before time, at least 20 minutes before time. Nobody bothered to tell us. By the time I reached the reception area, I could hear a lot of chaos. Obviously, people were fighting, people they're like, no, I came first. No, I generated the token first. How does it matter if you came first? I generated the token. Obviously, there was a chaos. And again, you can imagine people come from all stratas of the society, especially in the public hospital, right? Many of them don't even understand what does this token mean. I have registered my name. I am waiting means I should get the first opportunity to meet the doctor. Now, when all of this is happening, the health officer, there is usually a health officer, he is rushing to the spot and he is also equally irritated and he was blabbering, that somebody will come and set up some process, they don't tell us what to do and they leave and we have to hear the music. Now I'll stop story here. What went wrong? If you look at it, the token machine works, right? I'm sure you have visited places, banks, service centers where you have these token machines, you have to go and generate the token, wait for your turn. Very simple thing. Why it didn't work? Because there was no process there. Somebody came and installed the machine. Nobody involved the stakeholders. Who were the stakeholders? The receptionist, the security guard, the government officer. Nobody involved there. And that's why when I say that you may establish, you may get the best tools, you may have the best people, but if you don't set up how it has to be executed, it fails. Alright, I hope that makes it slightly more encouraging. And let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so let us talk about processes, the definition of process. I'm sure you all know the definition of process. A set of steps to be done in a certain sequence so that you get the desired results. What is important is that you get the desired results, right? There are plenty of examples from our day-to-day life, right? Photosynthesis, the process of evaporation, our digestive system, it's within our body, right? So many processes. Now that we have defined the process, what is this creating effective process? How do you create effective process, or how do you define an effective process? In my opinion, of course, the definition is clearly mine. Of course, you can go and check internet and perhaps you will find something similar. When we talk about creating effective processes, we talk about creating processes which are simple, which are sustainable, and which have a positive impact. Now, what do I mean by that? The process needs to be simple, because if your process is simple, then only people are going to follow it. It will be easier for people to follow a simple process. What I mean by sustainable? The processes should be set up in such a way that it survives at least for 6 months, 1 year, whatever, based on the complexity of the process. It shouldn't be something that I keep on changing every 10 days, 15 days. Then it creates some chaos. People are totally confused what is to be followed. And it should have a positive impact. Now, what do I mean by positive impact? Things that which you can measure, you can see, yes, there is a change. There is a significant change after I have set up this process. Now, let me share an example of a simple, effective process. So, I work for Razorpay, and we have different launches happening, different feature releases, and we also have to document all of that, right? Now, my writers, I have 12 writers who write these features. Now, we have things planned, right? Okay, this feature is going to go in this month, and my writers are planning for it, for that particular doc release. Those are all planned activities, that's how we define it. Apart from these, we also get a lot of documentation requests which are ad hoc in nature. We call them ad hoc. Now, why I say they are ad hoc, they're like somebody spotted a documentation bug. So our website is available publicly. Somebody finds a broken image perhaps, or formatting is gone, or maybe information is missing or inaccurate or outdated, or a PM figures out, okay, this is a very complicated process, perhaps we should have a video for that. These are all kind of requests we get from different channels, different folks, different departments who reach out to us. And at Razorpay, documentation is very, very heavily used. Now, what was happening is that when we were getting these ad hoc documentation requests, my writers used to get distracted. Now, just imagine I'm working on something, I'm looking at the PRD, trying to come up with a draft, and I see there is a request for, this has to be changed. I have to leave my this work, go back to this, because if there is an error, I have to fix that. I cannot say, no, let the error be, right? This is a public document, like I said. So I was seeing my writers were getting distracted, and there were times they had to work extra hours to make up for things, right? Not a good thing. So while I was discussing this with my boss, so he said, "Oh, Shikha, how many such requests you get?" I was like, "I don't know, perhaps 30, 40, not sure." Like, first find it out how many you're getting. It was difficult to get that number. The reason being, these ad hoc requests were coming through several Slack channels. Now we use Slack for our internal communication. So anyone finds anything, they will put it on Slack. And there are perhaps 50 channels, and all these Slack requests are scattered, at least through, they were all coming through some 20 channels. Very difficult. How will I go and keep a count of all of that? So we thought, we have to put our process in place. So what we did is, the first thing we did is, we know that there is a Tech Docs channel exclusively for the tech writers. We have set it out that, folks, if you have any documentation requests, anything, you have to come through Tech Docs. You cannot put it on other Slack channels. Now, humans being humans, we don't follow this. But there are a good few humans also. Out of these 30 channels through which the requests were coming in earlier, now the number has reduced to some 5 to 6 channels. Okay, manageable. So first thing was that. Second, what we did, we found out that there is an integration available between Slack and Jira. Now, Jira is the project management tool that we use. And we have this process that for any documentation, you have to create a Jira task. It's in the system, you cannot break it. You will not be able to push your PRs. So what we did an automation. Whenever there was a ping about a doc change, first thing the writer would go and create a Jira task. Now what happened? The good thing when somebody created a Jira task, immediately the requester knew that, okay, somebody has picked it up and this is the writer. And I can always follow up. I don't have to really follow up with the writer. I can go and check the Jira status to see if this is done or not, right? The other thing that we did with Jira is, Jira comes with a lot of features. What we did categorization. We identified from which source, who is requesting, how many requests are coming from support, how many are coming from integrations, how many are compliance, how many are banking. We are now able to categorize. Plus, we are now also able to categorize what type of requests are coming. Is it a bug? Is it a spelling error? Is it a broken image? Is it some video request? So with this, we are able to generate very good reports. We know exactly where the problem is. What we also saw when we started doing this, we started getting the numbers. We started with this process 2.5 years back. So we were getting close to 80 ad hoc requests every month. And when we started doing this, we also started categorizing formatting error. Formatting error is clearly an error from the tech writer. Now, no tech writer would want their name to come on Jira in these reports where they say that, these many errors came in. With this, we were able to improve the quality of the tech writers, the content that was going out. Also, we could see that there was a pattern. For certain products, we were getting consistently ad hoc requests, which meant that our documentation was not up to date, something was missing, there was a lag. We worked with those product managers and we ensured we closed all of those gaps. And today, I pulled out yesterday the report for the month of November. We are getting 28 ad hoc requests. 80 to 28. Of course, it took some time. But then just look at the difference that we create. And with this, now my writers can concentrate more on the planned activities. They don't have to work on the ad hoc tasks. Right? So this is what is an example of creating a simple, effective process and which has some measurable impact, things that we could easily measure. Now, that is about creating effective processes. Now, who according to you should create these processes? It's a question. Who according to you should create these processes? Is it the lead? Is it the team member? Yeah, okay, I'm getting some answers. Okay, so before I come to the answer, I'll narrate another story. Now, we launched, so Razorpay is an India-based payment gateway, and like I said, it's India-based, and we launched in Malaysia last year. So, when we were launching in Malaysia, of course, we created another website, another documentation website for Malaysia. When we got the requirement, we worked with the engineering team. Now, I'll again give you a bit of a context so that you understand the example a little bit more better. So what was happening is, so the set of tools that we have is that we use GitHub for our docs repo. And then we have a homegrown tool which is on top of VS Code. We have customized it. At the back, there's Markdown language. We have an engineering team who maintains that platform, the tools. And if we have any requirements, we go back to them, tell them, okay, we need this and that, they work on it, and things like that. So when we were going to Malaysia, we worked with our engineering team that, okay, we need the infra and we need certain components. Now, as you can easily understand, a lot of information is going to replicate for Malaysia, right? Because whatever is India will be there in Malaysia with some tweaks here and there based on the country and things like that. They have different currency, they don't have UPI. So we had to make sure those changes are there. And we all have used traditional tags. I'm sure people who are here, experienced folks, have definitely used conditional tags. So of course we are using conditional tags and the team helped us building the components. It was a good 3 months project. Some 8 writers worked on it. And there was a lead who was leading the entire initiative. I used to meet them, like, how's it going? All good, super awesome. We launched and all of that happened. So one of the days I was talking to my lead and I was telling him, so tell me more about Malaysia. It was the first internationalization experience for all of us. A lot of learnings we had. I'm like, okay, tell me what we could do better. So she said, Shripana, we did well, but I just wish we had better tools. So I said, what do you mean by we have better tools? Our tool is homegrown. You tell me what you want. She said, every time we have to make a change on a documentation. Now the way the tech writers work, right? Even if we make a full stop comma change, we would like to see how it looks on production or, the preview. We all want to do that, right? If I have to do a preview, I have to run a command. If I have to do the preview for the same page for Malaysia, I have to run another command. And these 4 commands cannot run on the same window. I have to close down the window. I have to open up another terminal window, run the command. It takes good 30 seconds to execute the command and the page to show up. And then, why did you tell me this before? You should have told me. Of course, perhaps she was a little taken aback that why she's talking to me like this. I mean, you have suffered. Not only you have suffered, all the 8 writers who were working with you have suffered. Just imagine you're making some change, you're running terminal, wait for 30 seconds for the page to pop up, again close all of that, run the command. It was a very tedious process. All that I had to do is go and talk to my engineering manager and tell him that, look, this is the way the component is working. You have to tweak your commands, do whatever you want to do at the back end and make sure my tech writers do not need to do this circus. They just need to run one command. You can switch using flags or whatever way you want to do it. It should be as simple as that. Refresh, you can see the new page, the other page. The engineering manager took up the request. It was solved in 2 weeks, one sprint. One sprint is 2 weeks. So this is where the answer comes. Creating effective processes is not just the responsibility of the lead, but the entire team. Because if you don't come and tell the leader would never know. I'm not going and running those commands, right? You have to come and talk to the lead, so it's the responsibility of everyone. It's a collaborative effort. Everyone is part of the entire process. Alright, we spoke about what is an effective process and who creates. Now let's talk about how do you create effective processes, right? The first thing is define the problem well. Now this is also something which I've noticed that, whenever the appraisals are close by, I have to show some initiative. Let me just go and create a process. Let me make some tweaks in the process and put it as part of my docs initiatives. I think we all have done it. Understand the problem. Does it really need to be changed? understanding the problem doesn't really need to be solved. Sometimes whatever is the existing process is perhaps working well. Also understand whenever you are trying to set up a new process, whenever you are trying to update the process, you are introducing change management, and it is a different beast in itself. As humans, we are not very acceptable to change, right? So that's another process in itself. So be very sure if you really need to change. Also, I've seen whenever there's a change in the leadership, the new leader comes and scraps off everything or goes into the dustbin. Let's create processes. That should not be the approach. Your objective should be to help the team, help the organization, help the customer. It should not be a personal goal. It should be the goal for the organization. Now, once you're sure that yes, we have to solve this problem, talk to your team members. Very important. What I've seen, leaders just go and start doing something. They are carrying something in their head. They just start doing things because they don't know the ground reality. Please make sure you make your team members part of your process making. Talk to your all other stakeholders, be it product managers, engineers, whoever is getting impacted by that new process that you're trying to set. Make sure they're also part of the process. They may not talk or give comments. That's all right, but make sure you float around whatever is going on in your mind. That this is what I'm trying to set, because you never know. You may get good inputs. I have gotten good inputs when I have floated out the processes. I've gotten good inputs from folks. Perhaps you can try this out. Oh, there's a new tool. Just try if you can use that to automate this part of the process. Gather as much inputs possible from your team members. Draft the process. Very important. I think we are good at this. We are writers. The engineers go and write things. Make sure you draft the process. After you draft the process, run it once again with your primary stakeholders who are your tech writers. Because at times, what we think versus what gets translated on paper, there is always some gap. And also, remember you spoke to a few other folks in between. They have a different point of view perhaps. So make sure you run the process with your team once again before you start implementing it. Once all of this is done, you will have few changes in your draft. Make those changes, finalize and publish the process, and start executing. Very important. Also, depending upon how big or complicated is your process, make sure that you are, like I said, based on the complexity of the process, just see if you would want to run a dry run before you actually go and implement the process. If the impact can be huge. Just to see if it is working as per the document, if it is working as we have planned for it. You will get a lot of learnings. Take up your learnings and then come with your final process, roll it out and see how it is functioning. Measure the impact, very important. Once you have executed the process 2 months, 3 months down the line, or whatever, it depends upon how complex is the process, and there are certain processes which take time to see the results. Make sure you record the findings and again make tweaks as necessary. Keep revisiting the process, very important. Just don't establish a process and think that it will work through for ages. The business cases are changing. We have a lot of new tools, a lot of innovations happening. Keep in mind what can be implemented to make the process better. So that was about creating effective processes. And next I will move to automation. Now, you all know what is automation. I'm not going to the definition of it. What to automate? Again, things which are redundant, which are repetitive, which do not require human intervention, human intelligence to do things. Please go ahead and try automating it, because in my opinion, tech writers should write, coders should code, testers should test. And we should spend as little as time possible on all the admin activities, like updating the Jira task, updating a tracker, creating a report. But despite we say that, we know these are also important, right? Otherwise, how do you manage a project? You cannot do a project management if you don't have trackers, if you don't have Jira in place. So just see which are the avenues where you can automate. Now, I'll give you a couple of examples where we have automated at Razorpay. So, this was back in 2020 when I joined Razorpay. I was just in the system for 2-3 weeks, And there were only 2 senior tech writers in my team. So I saw there was one senior tech writer. She used to send out one email to the marketing team. Please send us the 404 report. I was noticing she was sending this email every week. She was sending this every week. Then I was like, what is this 404 report you're asking for? Then she explained, Shripana, we get some 404 errors on our page, on our documentation website. We get that report from the marketing team. They have a tool which can, identify those errors. And then we get that report, we work on it, fix it, and then we do this every week. Okay. Why do we need to follow with the marketing team? Because we don't get the license, we have very limited usage. Obviously, organizations, they always, try to cut short of these licenses. But then Monday she sends a mail, she gets a response on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday she will juggle to work on the plant tasks, everything else, also work on the 404 report and fix things. Monday again, next Monday again she sends a mail. Then I figured out, I spoke to the engineering team again that can we not automate this? Because I figured out she was spending half a day every week, which is like 2 days in a month, right? Simple maths. In a year, she was spending 24, we were spending 24 days just to fix broken links. Can you believe that? 1 productive month, only to fix broken links. So what we did? We figured out there is something called link checker available. It's a free tool. We just embedded it in our flow. So the way we are doing it today is, like I said, we have GitHub and we use our own tools. So from the GitHub, we take the master copy. Okay, now it is sitting on my local. When it is sitting on my local, I make those changes. When I'm making those changes, now let's say I have added a line as Razorpay has payment gateway, payment link, QR code. And let's say I have misspelled the reference. We usually link all of these, right? Whenever we give out such kind of text, we usually link it. So I have misspelled QR code. Basically I'm introducing a broken link. What is happening today is, when I get my PR reviewed and when I'm going to merge my local to my master and the master eventually gets deployed on the production, I'm not allowed to do that because there's a broken link. What the link checker does is, whenever I'm trying to push my PR, it runs checks. The link checker runs checks. It identifies on file name this, line number 226, there's a broken link. All that I have to do is go and fix that broken link, run the checks once again, push it to production. So today, there is 0 chances of a broken link on my page, on my website. Because there is no way you can introduce a broken link. One is the customer experience. Just imagine if you are going to a website and you get a broken link, how will you feel? What kind of website is this? What kind of brand it is? Right? We will all have those kind of feelings. Now that thing is not there. And the 24 days of time that we were spending is eliminated. No need to send out mails, no need to follow up, no need to work on these. Like, these are the boring jobs. I mean, who would want to do that? A senior tech writer sitting and fixing broken links? Nobody likes to do these things. So this is the power of automation. We've also done small automations. For example, again, a very common thing, right? We work on certain things, so we have Jira tasks, right? I mentioned that. So we change the status from backlog to in progress. I worked on the Jira, my document is live. My status is still in progress. Now when I'm generating the report, I get 70 tasks are in progress. Then I'm like, how is it possible? How can 70 reports are in progress? I have to go individually to each of the Jira tasks, check the GitHub link to see, oh, this is published. Now just imagine the pain of the person who is generating the report because the numbers are totally screwed up. They're not the right numbers. So what do? We have automated this also. The moment a Jira task is picked up from backlog, I don't have to even change it to in progress. The moment I create a branch, I told you that story, master copy, you create a local branch. The moment I create a local branch, I'm tagging it with Jira, with the Jira ID. I have the Jira ID, I tag it with my branch. My Jira and my local are now connected. The moment I do that, the change status automatically changes to in progress. The moment I merge my PR to production, it gets changed to published. So these are very small things, and all that we have to do is talk to the Jira team, talk to the IT team, have some couple of meetings, and get this sorted. So that's what I mean when we talk about automation. 5 more minutes, I understood. Right. Now, let's move on to AI. AI is the flavor of the season, and I had to talk about AI. We cannot have a talk perhaps without AI in these days. So we are all talking about AI, and we already have a lot of use cases of how we can implement AI, how we can make use of AI. But how do you make AI part of your process? If I go and tell my team, okay, ChatGPT is there, go start using it. Do you think people will do that? You have to make it part of your process. And how do you do that? Now, what I did, of course, I had a couple of meetings with my team. They had their own, questions. Is AI going to replace me and all of that? We try to, answer that. But then how do you make it part of the process? Do a few workshops with them. Sit with them to see, pick up your use cases from your own documentation. I'm sure you will have plenty. Let us try doing this. Once you start doing this, you will see people as using it when they see, okay, this is helping me. It is reducing my time. My few writers are so lazy, I tell you, they just, they don't, like I said, we use Markdown language. They just say, they just put in normal English, put this in Markdown. It is doing that, all that do is just copy paste back in the tool. And they're doing this, I'm not joking. I'll give you one quick example, I know I just have 5 more minutes. What we did is, on our website, we had some downloadable sheets. Now, Razorpay being a payment gateway, we work with a lot of banks, and we have to share certain lists, like these are the banks that are supported, these are the debit cards using which you can transact, and things like that. We had close to 30 sheets. Now, if you look at it, downloading a sheet is not a very good experience because you are moving out from the documentation platform, number one, which nobody wants. We all want let there be documentation platform forever. Okay, the second thing is, when you download, the thing is sitting on your local, and if there is a new sheet we are updating, you will not know. There is no way the person who has downloaded knows that there is a change. Then they will continue to look at the older sheet, right, an outdated sheet. Not a great experience. We had certain challenges why we had to do that in the first place. We were not having great tables and all of that. We built some good tables where you can search within the table. You have a scroll bar where there is a list of things and all of that. We got that component built. Then we figured out that if now we have the component ready, we have tested it out, works fine. I have done it for some 2-3 tables, works fine. Great. Now I have to move all those 30 sheets into this. There were certain sheets which had 400 rows, which means somebody has to sit and type angular brackets table, name of the columns, put 3 dashes, the next row, again 3 dashes. You miss one dash, you're gone. You have to again sit and fix where is the error. It was a very tedious task. Not a difficult task, but a very tedious task. When we did the initial effort estimation of this, we figured out 10 days to time लगेगा. We will need 10 days to get all of this on Docs platform. So we said, let's try ChatGPT. Okay. We used ChatGPT. We did half a day of experimenting. And we were able to we figured out that ChatGPT can make these changes, but it needs Python. It has to get Python, codes as its input. So what we did, obviously we didn't know how to write Python. We said, okay, ChatGPT, you only create the Python. Using the Python code, we again fed the same Python code back to ChatGPT, and it generated all the Markdown language. And the 10 days activity was brought down to 2 days, and we were live. So that's the power of AI. It's all about how you use it, and just saying that go use it is not going to work. As a leader, as team members, go and try your hands out. Then only you will be able to understand the power of AI. I hope this was useful and you will now appreciate processes more. Not just create good processes, make effective processes which have impact, things which can be measured. Use automation, help your team, improve the efficiency of the team, wow the users, and AI is always there. Please make sure you use it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shriparna. Now the floor is open for Q&A.
Thank you, Srivattam, for your it's very educated. So you talked about improvement that has effect, but if it leans more towards the engineering side, it leads like more advantages for the engineering side and less for the writer's side. So how do you measure that effectiveness and what is the impact?
I haven't really understood the question very well. If you could rephrase it, please.
Okay, so let me give you an example. In a current organization, they eliminated the tool Playmaker and decided to go for Word because there was always last minute changes occurring and there was no time for the writer to give their inputs. So what happened was, when they were doing this, we had to review the document, edit. So we had lack of time. So that was leaning more towards the engineering side. So how do you feel this is improvement or effective or
how do you get a process?
So you
Basically, how do you get a process when you have other people?
okay? So if you have, so you're talking about how do you set up processes if it is a cross-functional
Yes, yes.
process or collaboration, right? Right. So in that case, you have to make sure when you're framing your process, like I said, you bring in all your stakeholders. So your engineering team is also part of your stakeholder, right? At the end of the day, the overall process impact should be better. If you feel that after I have done this process, if not my tech writing team, the other team is getting benefited, then it's definitely a success. If it is not, then you have to go back and re-evaluate the process. But for cross-functional process, it's super critical that you involve all of them and you brainstorm with them. You make sure whatever draft you coming up with, you make them a part of the entire conversation so that they know what is coming to them, right? And if you also look at it, it's a human tendency, right? If you're part of something, you start supporting it, right? If you're not part of it, somebody created it. If you go back to my hospital example, the story which I started with, the problem was also there because the stakeholders were not involved. They felt left out. So it's important that you include people who are getting impacted. There are people who are getting impacted. Somebody had set up the process, has gone. But now they have just, they're facing the music, right? So they should have been part of the whole process making. Did I answer? Okay.
I think it's also important to show them what they are going to gain out of this.
Absolutely.
If you just ask them to help, they're not going to help you. But what is their takeaway? What is their advantage, right? If you can tell them that, okay, maybe you will not have to spend so much time on reviews. I will not be doing so much follow-up with your reviews, for example. That will be a buy-in from them also. It's an easier way to get a buy-in.
That's the positive impact that I spoke about. That's why I said create effective process, and having a positive impact is important. And positive impact is this: reduce time. The throughput is sooner. You can roll out things much more faster, right? Yes. Any more questions?
Hi, thank you for bringing up this topic. I've been working on this and I have two questions. One, which model do you use with your AIs? Because there are so many models. Each model has its own outputs and understanding context, that's one. Second is, because you gave an example of Markdown, how can you get the syntax? I hate Markdown table syntax. It's absolutely despicable. I'm sorry. But I wanted to rely on the AI. So I think I was using watsonx with Meta's Llama model. Unfortunately, it was just reiterating the same table over and over again. It was not doing the syntax. So I want to know if there is any specific model I should keep in mind.
So we use ChatGPT free version. We are not on license yet. sasta picker, we just go with ChatGPT free version. And what we did with ChatGPT in this case, like I said, that what we tried to do is we first uploaded. So there's an option on ChatGPT. I'm sure it's there on other tools, other models also, where you can upload the sheet. But what was happening is that it was able to translate or convert that only the first 10 rows. The next few rows it was breaking, right? And then it has also its limitations, like I said, because we are on the free version, it says, okay, you are done. You cannot do more than this, come back tomorrow. So we realized this is not going to work. The uploading and converting it is not going to work. And then we figured out that you can convert it into Python. After you give the feed, you can convert it into Python. Of course, one of my team members, he is a paid version. So what we used his ID. We got we updated the sheet, we uploaded the sheets, we converted it into Python, and from Python it was able to convert it into Markdown. Of course, we did review. We reviewed it well, just to make sure, AI being AI, and we always want to make sure, it's not hallucinating or there are no breakages. But then it was able to give very good results. But I think we didn't find any error in the code that got generated. Sorry, have I taken more time?
With the interest of time, this is the last question that we want to take.
Actually, it's not a question,
Yeah.
but I would like to appreciate how good the resume documentation is.
Oh, thank you.
I
I'm giving my co-founders now. Please put up a note.
So I work in data analysis as a senior technical writer. So I'm the sole technical writer there. And resume documentation has helped me a lot in finding out like how good a documentation can be. And it's truly a
We should
benchmark.
get a recording of this, right?
Truly, it is like a benchmark in the fintech documentation. So it has helped me a lot actually.
Sure, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we are not just helping the users, we are also helping our competitors.
Thank you, Suparna, for the insightful session. So, we would like to introduce our next speaker, Mridula Menon. She has a rich experience in product development, content development, and business intelligence.